that we understand the basic foundations of Torah. If we can get that locked down, we should have no problem. Good to go. Everybody should be happy. The family should be happy. The Mishpachah, the congregation, we should all be good. The book of Psalms, 102, verse 13. 102, verse 13. We're talking about now the Mashiyach sending his son, Yahusha Mashiyach, and how the Father has had compassion on the nation of Yashra'al. It says, thou shalt, let's start verse 12. But thou, O Yahuah, shall endure forever. And forever is, everybody knows forever means forever. Okay, so there's no scriptural breakdown for that. That is basic 101. Everybody knows that. So again, but thou, O sovereign, shalt endure forever, and thy remembrance until all generations. Thou shalt arise and have mercy upon Zion. It is very important that we understand protocol. Everybody has to follow order. Just like the nation of Yashra'al has to follow order, the other nations have to follow order. And the order is this, is that the Father chose the nation of Yashra'al to be his people. So when we read verse 13, it says, the Father shall arise and have mercy upon Zion first. Israel is first fruits. So we have a responsibility now to follow, again, all of Torah and make sure that that is our basic foundation to having this relationship with the Father. Because the Father is going to have mercy upon Zion for the time to favor her, yet the set time is come. The set time is come. Now, when we look up that word set time, it's the Strong's number 4150. And that word set time is associated with the word Moedim. Moedim. All right? And everybody knows what the Moedims are, right?
Appointed times.
What's that now?
Appointed times.
Right, the appointed times. And the appointed times are what?
The feast.
Right. Can you name them?
Pesach.
Uh-huh.
In order.
Yeah, please. You like
Pesach.
Pesach,
Unleavened bread.
unleavened bread,
Somebody help.
first fruits,
Feast of Weeks,
Feast of Weeks,
Shavuot.
Shavuot,
Yom Kippur.
Yom Kippur. Hold on, wait a minute.
Oh, wait, we said,
Yeah, there's seven out here. We have Pesach, we have unleavened bread, first fruits, Shavuot, Yom Teruah.
No, that's atonement.
Uh-huh. We have Yom Teruah, Yom
Atonement.
Kippur.
Yeah, that's him.
Yeah.
And then Tabernacle.
Feast of Tabernacles. Hallelujah. And when is the Father coming to redeem? Because we talk about appointed times. Because remember verse 13 that says, thou shalt arise and have mercy upon Zion. When is the Father going to have mercy upon Zion? Right. So we have now, during the Day of Atonement, here, the Day of Atonement, the shofar is blown. And then now the following year is the Jubilee year. Right, so the year of release. So Israel is going to be delivered now during a Jubilee year. As it was in the beginning, so shall it be in the end. When was Israel delivered out of Egypt?
Pesach.
Right, so that Pesach was a
Jubilee.
It was a Jubilee. So everything is centered around the festivals of Yahuah. And we'll go into that a little bit deeper a little bit later on. But again, I just wanted everybody to make sure that when we're reading the scriptures is that we have the proper tools with us so that we can understand exactly what's going on. Because it's talking about a set time, and that set time is centered around, just like Abad has said, it's centered around the Moedims of the Father. All right? So let's go to the book of Yeshayahu, or the book of Isaiah. The book of Isaiah 14, the 14th chapter, and we're going to start at verse 1. We'll be talking about the love, the mercy, the compassion that the Father is having on the nation of Yashra'al. If we can get, we have Shammai, she's busy with her little brother, no, her nephew. My little nephew, let's have, if we can have Shabbat, Yahuah's Isha, if she can read verse 14, 1 and 2 for us, please.
For Yahuah will have mercy on Jacob.
Right, so the operative word is what?
Wait, what you say?
What is the operative word so far?
Oh, mercy.
Hallelujah.
And will yet choose Israel,
Uh-huh.
and set them in their own land, and the strangers shall be joined with them, and they shall flee to the house of Jacob. And the people shall take them and bring them to their place, and the house of Israel shall possess them in the land of Yahuah. Servants and handmaids, and they shall take them captives, whose captives they were, and they shall rule over their oppressors.
Right, and so mercy is associated with the forgiveness of sins. And as Apoti said, now it's for the father of Yahuah will, and the operative word is mercy, and the verb will have mercy on Yaakov, and will yet choose, and that's very important, that the Father will yet again choose Israel and set Israel in their own land. So right now we're not in our own land. We're not in our land. We're in the land of our captives. We're in a strange land, following strange customs. But once we get back into the land, and we're now supposed to be rehearsing the righteous acts. And so once we get into our land, we will know how to behave ourselves versus the first time. When the Father gave us the land, we broke all the commandments that the Father set for us. And so we were excommunicated, and we were scattered abroad. But the scripture also shares with us now that there will be strangers joined with us. And it says that they shall cleave into the house of Yaakov. And the nation of Yashra'al, which is the people, shall take them, which are these strangers, and they shall bring them to their place. And the house of Israel shall possess them, which are the strangers. Let me read this again, verse 2. And the people shall take them and bring them to their place. So the other nations now, they're going to take them and bring us to our place. And the house of Israel shall possess them, which are the strangers, in the land of the father. So the property, the house belongs to who?
Father.
All right, it's the Father's house. And we shall possess these strangers for servants, for handmaidens, and they shall take them, which is us, we should take them captives, whose captives they were, and we shall rule over our oppressors. Anybody have any problems or issues with that? Oh, Kasai, she had her hand up. You got an issue. So, I mean, it's been a long time coming. So you're going to do these things. This is part of your inheritance. I'm just messing with you. Just messing with you. Let's go to the book of Isaiah, the 43rd chapter, verses 5 through 6. 43, 5 through 6. I'm just trying to show before we get into today's lesson the love and the compassion that the Father has had on his people, the nation of Yashra'al. He will yet choose Israel. 43, 5 and let's go 3 and 6. And let's go with Terrell, because I don't remember your Hebrew name. Has got the Hebrew name, but we're going to work that out. Zabud, Yahuah. All right.
Come on, man.
Hallelujah. Okay. All right. Let's get it together. I hear you.
I like hearing my name.
Okay.
Where we at?
In the book of Yahusha, the 43rd chapter, verses 3 through 6. And we're still concentrating on the love, the compassion, and the mercy that the Father has had for his people, the nation of Yashra'al. The book of Isaiah, the 43rd chapter, verses 3 through, let's go with 7, because you the man.
For I am Yahuah, thy Elohim, the set-apart one of Israel,
Of who?
of Yashra'al, thy Savior. I gave Egypt for thy ransom, Ethiopia and Seba for thee. Since thou wast precious in my sight, thou hast been honorable, and I have loved thee. Therefore will I give men for thee, and people for thy life. Fear not, for I am with thee. I I will bring thy seed from the east, and gather thee from the west. I will say to the north, give up, and to the south, keep not back. Bring my sons from far, and my daughters from the end of the earth.
The daughters too?
Yeah.
So the daughters are also included in the rebuilding of the nation of Yashra'al.
That's right.
All right, just want to make sure that's clear, but there's a lot of teachings that, you know what, we can do without our women and all this stuff like that. So our women are included in the rebirth or the regathering of the nation of Yashra'al. I just wanted to make sure that that was clear. Go ahead.
Even everyone that is called by my name, for I have created him for my glory. I have formed him, yea, I have made him.
Hallelujah, hallelujah. And we're going to go over the name a little bit later on, so that we can all be in one accord and try to explain why we're using the O versus the W. But everything is good. Everything is good. Fact and consequences for not obeying and following Torah. There are severe consequences. All right. So being that the Father has had passion on the nation of Yashra'al, there is something that we must do. In every relationship, when two people come together, when the man is doing what he's supposed to be doing according to Torah, there's a responsibility that the Isha has. When the Isha now is following Torah, there's a responsibility that the Ish has. This is how the body functions and works. Everybody now must uphold their responsibility, respect one another so that the household can function. But when there's disobedience, nobody is following Torah, there will be consequences. And when we don't follow the instruction that the Father is giving us, the consequences can be deadly. We're going to go to the book of Luke, the 19th chapter, verse 27. So we talked about the forgiveness, the mercy, the love, the compassion. Now let's talk about some of the consequences for not following Torah. The book of Luke, the 19th chapter. Luke, the 19th chapter. Everybody's told today?
Told.
Hallelujah. We want the Ruach to flow through here. We want everybody to be happy. Everything is good. Everything is going to be okay, Mishpachar. Luke, the 19th chapter, verse 27. We're looking at the consequences. Consequences. If we can get a Koti, Kathy, to read that too. The book of Luke, the 19th chapter, verse 27. Verse 27.
Luke 19, verse 27.
Yeah, this is the Mashiyach speaking. I want everybody to really take hold and really digest what verse 27 is actually saying here. So verse 27, please.
But those my enemies, which would not that I should reign over them, bring hither, and slay them before me.
Now that's a very bold statement. That is something there. If we're not going to abide by the laws, statutes, and commandments, and understand exactly what the Mashiyach came to do, and trample over the blood of the Mashiyach all over again, and you don't want the Mashiyach now to reign over you, bring that wicked servant, man, woman, and child, and slay that person before me. I didn't write this. This is documented in our records. We must follow order, and there will be consequences, and nobody is excused. Nobody. We all must make sure that we follow the laws, statutes, and commandments. Let's go to the book of Numbers, the 14th chapter, and let's get Shalach Yahuah, Numbers, the 14th chapter, verse 36. 1436. 1436 to 30. Numbers the 14th chapter, verses 36 to 37.
Okay. And the men which Moses sent to search the land, who returned and made all the congregation to murmur against him, by bringing up a slander upon the land.
Okay, my fault. Let me do this again.
Okay.
Numbers, the chapter, let me see here, the 14th chapter, verses 36, 37. I'm with you now.
Okay. And the men which Moses sent to search the land, who returned and made all the congregation to murmur against him,
Yes, Moses.
by bringing up a slander upon the land, even those men that did bring up the evil report upon the land, died by the plague before Yahuah.
Right, so the reason why I'm bringing this out is because there's going to come a point where we're going to have to make an exodus. It is very important for us to understand that we keep a real tight-knit on our families. I like a scripture that's in the last book of Daniel where it talks about in that last great day that the archangel Michael is going to stand up for the people, which is the nation of Yashra'al. We're living in some very critical times, and it is very important that we follow orders. And we're not a people that's accustomed to following orders. Who set him up? Who set her up? We're going to have the same problems that happened during the first Exodus and in the second Exodus. The commission came where we were about to leave the wilderness, go into the land. The spies went out, saw the land. It was a beautiful land. Everything was growing plenteous. It talks about, maybe go into a little bit later, where it talks about like watermelons and the grapes, the fruits and the vegetables of the land. They were so big, man, where it took about 2 or 3 people just to carry them. I mean, grapes was little small grapes that we can get into the grocery stores now. That was not the account that the men that went out to spy the land, they gave back an account. They said that the fruits and the vegetables there, man, I mean, you probably couldn't even eat a whole grape. I mean, a bundle. I mean, the land was flowing with milk and honey. But the men came back and gave an ill report. And just to share with everybody, there's going to be something that you're going to have to do too. Scripture teaches us now that we are the fathers of weapons of war. You're my battle axe and weapons of war. So we're going to have to really make sure that we're geared up and ready for the fight. We had talked about last week about making sure that we're able to protect our households. Make sure that we have enough in our households when things hit the fan. Because Scripture also tells us that martial law is coming to America. Martial law. There will be civil unrest. And it's very important that we, the congregation of Yashra'al, understands how important it is for us to be able to get along with one another. Because again, if not, the consequences can be deadly. And we don't want nobody coming back with an ill report. Because an ill report now can sow a negative seed in somebody else's heart and can now dysfunction the whole congregation. So it's very important that everybody has faith. And the Hebrew word for faith is emunah, E-M-U-N-A-H. All right, let's go to the book of Numbers. We're going to stay there. We're going to go to the book of chapter 16. And then after that, we're going to get into the lesson. Numbers, the 16th chapter. And we're going to read down a little bit. We're going to get a Pt1 Korah to read this here. Numbers, the 16th chapter. If she can start at verse 1 and pay very, very close attention to what's going on here. We're talking about order, responsibilities, and making sure that everybody adheres to the people that the Father has set up in positions now to actually lead the nation of Yashra'al. So, Pt1 Korah, if you could read for us, please, the book of Bamidbar, the book of Numbers, the 16th chapter, starting at verse 1.
Now, Korah.
Okay, I'm going to write these names down, but this is going to be very, very important. So, the first thing that you have is who?
Korah.
Okay, Korah. Read on.
The son of Izhar.
Uh-huh.
The son of Kohath.
Okay.
The son of Levi. And the son of Danan.
Uh-huh.
And Aham. The sons of Elad. And On. The son of Peleth. The sons of Reuben took men, and they rose up before Moses.
Okay, so these names will be very important. We have Korah. We have the other one, which is the son of Levi. We have Dathan. We have Dathan. In Dathan, we have Abiram. That's spelled A-B-I-R-A-M. Okay. The sons of Elab and the son of Elab, the sons. Okay, we took men. Okay, read it. I'm with you. Those names will be very important.
And they rose up before Moses with certain of the children of Israel, 250 princes of the assembly, famous in the congregation.
Right, so these were not ordinary men. Okay, there were 50 princes of the assembly, and these were famous men in the congregation. These were men of renown. Read on.
And they gathered themselves together against Moses and against Aaron, and said unto them, Ye take too much. And they rose up before Moses with a certain of the children of Israel, 250 princes.
Right, 250 princes,
Of the assembly, famous into the congregation, men of renown. And they gathered themselves together against Moses and against Aaron, and said unto them, Ye take too much upon you. Seeing all the congregation are holy, every one of them, and Yahuah is among them. Wherefore, then they ye up yourselves above the congregation of our Elohim, and when Moses heard it, he fell upon his face.
okay.
And he spake unto Korah and unto all his company, saying, Even tomorrow Yahuah will show who are his and who is holy, and will cause him to come near unto him. Even him who have chosen will he cause to come near unto him.
Right, so we all know what's going on here now. These men here, we have Korah, Dathan, Abram, and 250 men of Israel. These are men of renown. We're talking about elders, officers, priests. These are men that have a very big influence in the congregation. And they're challenging Moses. Challenging authority. I'm going to read verse 5. And Moses spoke unto Korah and to all his company, saying, Even tomorrow Yahuah will show who are his and who is set apart, and will cause them to come near unto him. Even him whom he hath chosen will he cause to come near unto him. If I was here at this particular time and I was part of that assembly, I'm going to tell you straight up, I would need a diaper.
What?
Oh, bro, listen, you don't want to come into the company of the Father. I'm going to tell you that right now. You don't challenge authority. The consequences can be deadly. We already see now what happened when Aaron and Miriam challenged Moses. When we begin to see this whole thing unfolds, and we see let's go back. Everything that Moshe did, the 10 plagues, this parting of the Red Sea, all these things that he did, and everybody's seeing that the Father was not actually working with Moshe. Now you're going to get some stepping, fetching, low down Israelites who's going to now challenge Moses and say, listen, who set you up? Who the hell are you? The Father's also talking to me also. Everybody wants to be a chief. Everybody. Nobody wants to be an Indian, or nobody wants to take orders. But even Dawood himself said, if I could just be a doorkeeper, just a doorkeeper, I'm good. Everybody here in the congregation has a responsibility. Every single body. And when you're not here, you're missed. You're missed. But here we have a situation where the Father's also dealing with me on the same level. Let's see whether or not the Father's dealing with Korah, Dathan, Abram, and the 250 men of renown. These are men of great stature. Koti, let's read on, please.
Number 16 and 6.
Mm-hmm.
This do take you censers Korah and all of his company, and put fire therein, and put incense in them before our Elohim tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
And it shall be that man that the man whom Elohim doth chooses, he shall be holy. Ye take too much upon you, ye sons of Levi.
These are the sons of Levi. Okay? Listen, this is very intense. This is a very, very intense situation here. Moses is pissed off. Pissed off because Israelites are very, very ungrateful people. Very ungrateful. Watch what is about to unfold here. Excuse me. Read on.
And Moses said unto Korah, Hear, I pray you, ye sons of Levi.
Watch verse 9.
Seemeth it but a small thing unto you, that Elohim of Israel has separated you from the congregation of Israel, to bring you near to himself, to do the service of the tabernacle of our Elohim, and to stand before the congregation to minister unto them.
Right, hallelujah. So stop right there. So Moses now is speaking to Korah, and he's saying to the sons of Levi, and he's pissed off. We're going to put this in layman's terms. The Father has given you a position. I'm talking one-on-one with you. I'm talking to you. The Father has given you a position. You're a Levite. He has set you apart from everybody else in the congregation. Everybody else. You now do the ministry, the slaughtering of the animals. You go into the set-apart place. That's not enough for you? That's not enough for you. The Father has given me a position now. We just talking here. The Father has given me a position now to lead the nation of Yashra'al. He set you apart now to do now the sacrifices, and that's not enough. That's not enough for you. When you're put in that situation and you're asking the Father to choose, the situation becomes very, very deadly. You never want to challenge the Father. Never. Read on.
And he hath brought thee near to him, and all thy brethren, the sons of Levi, with thee. And seek ye the priesthood also.
Right.
For which cause both thou and thy company are gathered together against Yahuah.
Yeah, against the Father. So, and that's very important. Watch this.
And what is Aaron, that ye murmur against him?
Right, 1 second. Verse 11. For which cause do you and all the company are gathered together against the Father? And what is Aaron that you murmur against him? So, when the Father sets a person up in a position of authority, a husband over the Isha, and as long as that Ish is following Torah, if she's being disobedient, and I know a lot of people don't like that word, she's not following Torah, she's not following her Ish. Is she being disobedient to her Ish or to the Father?
To the Father.
To the Father. Now watch this too now, because it goes both ways. As long as that Ish is following Torah, and she's supposed to be now your Ezra, your helpmate, and y'all supposed to be working together. Now when you're not following Torah, and you know that the Father's working with her, it's now the same thing. If you're not abiding by the Father who's also abiding in her, you're actually now in opposition with the Father. So it works both ways. It really works both ways. So in order for the house to function, because everybody has to be in a cod. It has to be in a cod. It has to. We all have to be one. So we have a responsibility here. So be very, very careful when we begin to challenge authority. Read on.
And Moses sent to call Dathan and Abram, the sons of Eliab, which said, We do not come up.
So watch this now. For which cause do you and all the company are gathered together against the Father? And what is Aaron that you murmur against him? Watch this now. And Moses sent messengers now to call Dathan and Abram, the sons of Eliab, which said, we would not come up. So as Moses now is calling for these elders now to come up and speak to him and put it in layman's terms. Listen, Moses don't tell me what to do. Who the hell is Moses? Don't you know who I am? I'm a Levite. I am a Levite. tell Moses, no what, to go kick rocks. Tell him to go kick rocks. Who is he now to tell me that I must go see him? Read on.
Is it a small thing that thou hast brought us up out of the land that floweth with milk and honey, to kill us in the wilderness, except thou make thyself altogether a prince over us? Moreover, thou hast not brought us into the land that floweth with milk and
So
honey,
this is their complaints.
or given us an inheritance of fields and vineyards. Wilt thou put out the eyes of these men? We will not come up.
Okay.
And Moses was wroth. And he said unto Yahuah, respect not thou their offering. I have not taken one ass from them, neither have I hurt one of them. And Moses said unto Korah, be thou and all thy company before Yahuah, thou and thee and they and Aaron tomorrow, and take every man his censer and put incense into them, and bring them yet before Elohim. Every man his censer, 250 censers. Thou also and Aaron, each of you his censer. And they took every man his censer and put fire in them, and laid incense thereon, and stood in the door of the tabernacle of the congregation with Moses and Aaron. And Korah gathered all the congregation against them to the door of the tabernacle of the congregation. And all the glory of Yahuah appeared unto all the congregation.
Wow. So watch what's happening now.
And
So they're now at the door, and the congregation and the esteem of Yahuah appeared unto all the congregation. That must have been a frightful thing to see. Okay, read on.
And Elohim spoke unto Moses and to Aaron, saying, separate yourselves from amongst the congregation, that I may consume them in a moment.
Whoa. And Yahuah spoke unto Moses and unto Aaron, saying, separate yourselves from amongst this congregation, that I may consume them in a moment. Okay, in a moment. Read on.
And they fell upon their faces and said, Yahuah, the Yahuah of all spirits of all flesh, shall one man sin, and wilt thou be wroth with all the congregation? And Yahuah spake unto Moses, saying, speak unto the congregation, saying, get you up from about the tabernacle of Korah, Dathan, Abram. And Moses rose up and went into Dathan, and Abram and the elders of Israel followed him. And he spake unto the congregation, saying, depart, I pray you, from the tents of these wicked men, and I touch nothing of theirs, lest ye be consumed in all their sins.
Hallelujah. Tanak, Coach, I appreciate that. You read a lot. I'm going to give you a little break, all right? So they got up from the tabernacle of Korah, Dathan and Abram on every side. And Dathan and Abram came out and stood in the door of their tents, and their wives and their sons and their little ones. Okay? And Moshe said, hereby you shall know that Yahuah has sent me to do all these works, for I have not done them of my own mind. So everything is being done in the name of the Father. If these men die, watch what's happening now. If these men, which is Korah, Dathan, Abram, and the 24 men of renown, if these men die, the common death of all men, or if they be visited after the visitation of all men, then Yahuah have not sent me Moses. But if Yahuah maketh or make a new thing, or create a new thing, and the earth open her mouth and swallow them up, Korah, David, Abram, and the 250 other men, and if it come to pass, verse 30 again. But if the sovereign make a new thing, and the earth open her mouth and swallow them up with all that pertaineth unto them, and that's the operative word, all that appertaineth to them, and they go down quick unto the pit, then you shall understand that these men have provoked the father of Yahuah.